All right, welcome everyone. Today we're diving deep into one of the most, misunderstood and mystically charged journeys in the entire Torah.
That's so true. We're talking about Abraham's descent into Egypt. And believe me, as we're about to see, this is so much more than a story about a famine. This is a mission into the very shadow of creation.
So let's just start with the verse itself. On the surface, it seems so simple, right? Almost like a travel note. And Abram went down to Egypt to sojourn there.
Exactly. But this is where the Zohar just blows the whole thing wide open. It tells us that packed inside these few simple words is a secret so profound it's almost earth-shattering. It's a cosmic blueprint for how to engage with concealment itself and pull out sparks of holiness from the deepest, darkest places.
And that really brings us to the central question, doesn't it? Was Abraham just fleeing a famine? Was he simply a refugee trying to survive a natural disaster? Or was he a spiritual pioneer, a kind of cosmic agent sent on a mission into a dimension that looks and feels like holiness but actually operates on a completely different set of rules? That's what we're going to unpack today. The simple story versus the Zohar's absolutely stunning interpretation.
Okay, so to really get to the bottom of this, here's how we're going to break this down. First, we have to understand the supernal blueprint. You know, the divine system that Abraham was coming from.
Then we'll look at Egypt as its distorted reflection, and that's going to allow us to reframe his whole descent as a holy mission. From there, we'll decode the Sephirot in the shadow.
And it all builds to the big moments, the crucial test of concealment, and finally, the incredible ascent and integration. Let's jump in.
Okay, so first things first. To get a handle on Abraham's journey down, we absolutely have to understand his starting point. And we're not just talking about a spot on a map called Canaan. We're talking about a spiritual system, a whole divine architecture. That's the key. You have to grasp the schematics of pure holiness before you can even begin to appreciate what its distorted mirror image in Egypt really is.
So when the Zohar talks about the Garden of Eden, it's not just talking about, a pretty garden with some trees. It's a perfect system, an architecture of divine energy, and it's all mapped to the Sephirot, the divine attributes.
Right. So you have chesed, which is loving kindness. That's Abraham's whole essence, and it's the source of all divine abundance. That flow gets channeled through Yesod, the foundation, which acts like a divine river. And where does it all end up? It manifests in Malkut, the kingdom, the physical plane that's designed to receive this incredible divine energy. Think of it as the production environment. It's the divine ideal.
Okay, and this is where it gets really wild. This brings us to the core paradox of this entire story. The Torah itself, when it's describing how lush and fertile the Jordan Valley is, compares it to two places.
And get this, the two places are the Garden of the Lord and the land of Egypt. I mean, what? How can Egypt, the place of exile, of spiritual narrowness, be compared to the Garden of God? This is the clue that tells us we need to look way, way deeper.
So what we're really seeing here is that Egypt is a mirror, a reflection of Eden. In the supernal garden, the source of all life and abundance is pure divine will, that endless flow of chesed. But in Egypt, the source is a physical mechanism, the Nile River.
Exactly. The wisdom of Eden is divine, absolute truth. The wisdom of Egypt is external, technical magic, the chartamim. It's the fundamental difference between kedusha, which is a state of pure, unconcealed holiness, and klippah, which is a shell, a husk, that actually conceals the holiness inside. Egypt has the structure of Eden, but the source code is completely different.
Okay, let's try a modern analogy here, something we can all wrap our heads around. Think of it from a cosmic engineering perspective. The Garden of Eden is the production server. It's live, it's perfect, it's holy. It's the real deal.
And Egypt. Egypt is the staging environment. It's been designed to look and feel exactly like production. It has the same resources, the same structure, it looks just as lush. But it's a sandbox. It's running on a different power source with all these distorted permissions and layers of concealment. And what's its purpose? To test the system, to find bugs, find vulnerabilities, and to see how holiness itself holds up under pressure.
So once you have this idea of Egypt as a cosmic sandbox, Abraham's entire journey is just radically reframed.
It's a total game changer. The Zohar makes it crystal clear. This was not some accidental fall because he was hungry. This was a conscious, deliberate, holy mission. It was spiritual fieldwork.
And the Zohar itself just hands us the key that unlocks everything. It says that Abraham, who'd already reached the highest levels of holiness, now desired to go deeper. He wanted, and this is the quote,
to investigate and to know those degrees that are attached below. He needed to understand the shadow system, the world of Klippa, so he could fully grasp the world of Kedusha. He wasn't a victim of famine, he was an explorer.
The video game analogy here is just perfect. Imagine Abraham is a max-level player. He's totally mastered the main world, the realm of holiness, and then a new expansion pack drops, the mirrored world of Egypt. The graphics are amazing, the landscape is just as rich and beautiful, but the physics are all inverted. The NPCs, the Egyptians, Pharaoh, they're all programmed to be hostile to his core essence. And the quest objective is so clear. Enter this dangerous mirrored world, retrieve a critical piece of cosmic wisdom about how the shadow system works, and get out without letting your character get corrupted by the game's distorted code.
Okay, so let's really dive into the mystical mechanics now. How exactly do these divine energies get reflected and twisted in the shadow realm? This is where we get to see the Sephirot, these pure divine attributes operating through a completely different distorted filter.
So this table just lays it all out, right? It's this direct one-to-one distortion. You take the Sephirah of Chesed. In Eden, that's pure spiritual loving kindness. In Egypt, it's reflected as just raw, untamed material abundance. It's got the quantity, but none of the quality.
And look at Yesod. In the supernal world, it's the divine channel of flow. In Egypt, it becomes the structured, mechanical power of the Nile and its irrigation. And Malchut, which is the Holy Land itself, animated by the divine presence, the Shekhinah, becomes just a physical land defined by external worldly power.
So when you boil it all down, what you really have are two fundamental mirrored systems. On one hand, you have the upper world of Kedusha, unconcealed pure holiness. And on the other, you have its lower reflection, the world of Klippa, which literally means husks or shells. It's a world built on concealment, where the divine life force is there, but it's hidden. And Abraham is the first person to consciously try to navigate the interface between them.
You can even think of it like a secret color code for this whole dynamic. In Eden, green represents vibrant, holy life force. In Egypt, it's the raw material growth that just comes from the Nile mud.
Right, and blue shifts from being the living waters of divine blessing to the mechanical blue of controlled irrigation canals. White, the color of pure holiness, the light of Chesed, which is embodied by Sarah, is literally forced into a box, into concealment. And this whole thing happens under an overlay of black, the domain of the Sitra Achra, the other side, which represents that deep concealment that powers all of Egypt's magic.
So this brings us to the climax of the mission. Abraham has entered the staging environment. He understands its distorted physics. And now comes the ultimate stress test, the confrontation with Pharaoh over Sarah. And you have to understand, this isn't just a domestic drama. This is the ultimate test of whether pure, essential holiness can survive and even dominate in the heart of a world built on concealment.
To really feel the stakes here, you have to know who Sarah represents in this mystical reading. She is not just Abraham's wife. She is the embodiment of the Shekinah, the indwelling divine presence on earth. So when Abraham puts her in a box, a teva, he's symbolically concealing the divine presence itself in order to bring it into the realm of Klippa. I mean, the cosmic stakes just could not be higher. And the Zohar describes this unbelievably powerful cinematic moment. The Egyptian customs officers, they're suspicious. They demand to see what's in the chest. They force it open.
And at the moment they do, the Zohar says the entire land of Egypt was illuminated by her radiance. It's this explosion of light, this incredible revelation that proves that even in the deepest, darkest place of concealment, true holiness can't actually be contained. Its light will always inevitably burst forth.
So if we break down this mystical power dynamic, it happens in 4 steps. First, you have the act of concealment. Abraham brings the Shekhinah into Egypt. Then comes the attempt. Pharaoh, who embodies this external worldly power, tries to seize this holiness for himself. But then you have the defense. And this is incredible. The Zohar says Sarah herself was in command of an angel. The text is, she would say strike, and he would strike. Which brings us to the verdict. The test is a massive success. Pure, protected holiness is absolutely inviolable. The external world of concealment, the Klippa, cannot consume or overpower the protected divine essence of Kedusha.
So mission accomplished. And that brings us to the resolution. Now, Abraham's departure from Egypt, it is not an escape. The Zohar is incredibly specific about this. It is an ascent.
That's right. He passed the test, he retrieved the data from the shadow realm, and now he is returning to his proper place, not just intact, but spiritually promoted. He's leveled up.
This specific Hebrew word the Torah uses here is everything. It doesn't just say, and Abram left Egypt. It says, Vaya'al Avram, and Abram ascended from Egypt. And the Zohar just zooms in on this word, Vaya'al. He ascended. He went down, Vayered, on a mission, and now he ascends, Vaya'al, in victory. He didn't just survive the staging environment, he mastered it, and he came back stronger and more complete than he was before.
And the proof is in what he brought back with him. The verse says he was very heavy, kaved, with livestock, silver, and gold. And the Zohar decodes this for us. Heavy doesn't mean weighed down, it means full of spiritual potency. And look at the metals. Silver, or kesef, corresponds to chesed, loving kindness. That's Abraham's inherent nature, the right side. But gold, zahab, that corresponds to gevura, discipline, the left side. This is the spiritual power he integrated from successfully navigating the other side. He went in as the pillar of Kesed and came out as a complete integrated being, mastering both sides of the divine flow.
So this ancient, deeply mystical story, it really becomes a blueprint for every one of us. It forces us to turn inward and ask a tough question. What is the Egypt in our own lives?
Yeah, what are those areas that look beautiful, successful, and structured on the outside, but are maybe powered by an external source and conceal a deeper, holier truth? What parts of our world must we carefully, consciously descend into, not to get lost, but to investigate, to test our own holiness, and ultimately to ascend from, stronger and more integrated than before?
Thank you for joining us for this complete journey through the Pardes.
We hope these ancient truths help you and your family improve your own dimensions this week.
If you enjoyed this full chapter deep dive, please like, subscribe, and share which part of the journey touched your soul in the comments.
We'll see you in the next chapter.